Welcome to Let's Talk.
To sit down and talk. We need to sit down and talk. How Nigeria should go, how we're going to do our job.
You want to stand up and say no to corruption. We're going to do our job because we're cleaning the system. You are not just doing good for yourself or for the nation, you also do good for the future.
Boko Haram is an attack, it's a spiritual attack. It's a satanic attack on Nigeria. We must, if we come to recognize it, we will understand then how to look for the solution.
The Sovereign National Conference, how do we want to achieve that in our present system? We need to sit down and iron out how Nigeria should be governed.
Great to have you with us. The program is Let's Talk right here on This Morning on Love Work Plus. Now, in any given institution or organization, an effective workforce is required to ensure the successful achievement of the goals and objectives of the said institutions. Now, today we want to be looking at that. What really does constitute an effective workforce? The workforce that we have currently in our organizations, in our institutions, could they be described as being effective? What has to happen to make our workforce more effective? Now, these are some of the things that we will be looking at in today's discussion. Actually, we're talking about towards an effective workforce management in Nigeria. And to help me talk about this, I have with me Kelechi Anyalechi. Kelechi is a management consultant. He is also a peak performance coach as well as a social expert. Thank you very much for coming today.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Okay, so we're talking about an effective workforce, and I want us to start by having a clear-cut picture of what an effective workforce really looks like. What would you describe as an effective workforce in any given institution?
Okay, an effective workforce, we can look at it in two ways, because every organization or every proper structured organization ought to have goals and objectives and things that they want to achieve. And so maybe at the beginning of the year, or they say within 6 months, these are the things we're looking at. Okay. Now, what you can use to determine whether that workforce has been, or that organization has been effective, they are being able to achieve those goals, or rather surpass them. So as long as you're not able to hit those goals, you might have done better than you did before, but if you didn't get up to it, you have not been as effective. If you did less than your past, you've not been effective. And also, you're looking at organizations that are in terms of services, like service to the society and all. If the society cannot see or feel that there's been some level of impact in what you've done based on your past performance, that means there's no effective. So you're looking at an effective workforce, you're looking at people who are able to hit or go beyond the organization goals and also provide the required services as promised them to the society or people.
Okay, so essentially, if a workforce is effective, they're going to be able to achieve the
goals that is set
and objectives that the organization has set, and that they'll also be able to carry out or provide good services
to the individuals and the society, as expected. That's as expected.
Okay, talking about the workforce in Nigeria. When you say workforce, of course, what comes to mind is labor.
Sure.
Labor, sure. Public offices and institutions and organizations and all of that. Now, labor experts say that the real reason why sometimes there appears to be a lack of effectiveness, desired effectiveness within the workforce is because the workers are underappreciated, they're undermotivated. Now, do you share those views first and foremost?
Yeah, I do.
You do?
I do share those views to a large extent.
Okay.
To a large extent.
Why? I mean, what do you think is responsible for that? Is it a Nigerian thing? Is it isolated to the Nigerian situation, or?
Well, it's not just a Nigerian thing, but since we're looking basically in terms of Nigeria, it's something I know that it's basic. People are so scared to do their best because they are wondering what they get out of it in the end. So it's like they feel they're working so hard and they're not getting anything in return. So we don't have what we call maybe a proper good reward system, where yeah, being appreciated for. Now, we're not saying you hit the goal that was given to you, or you were given a job description and you did it. We're saying, okay, you've been able to do that thing, or go better than that, or go higher than that. Okay, something to be able to encourage them. But first of all, people are already complaining that the salary given to them, at the end of the take-home pay is not even good enough to sustain them. And now sometimes you're trying to even look for one way or the other to cut out some of those things, And I was amazed where a friend of mine was telling me she had to travel abroad for, and so she wanted to apply for a visa. And what was given to her in a reference letter as her annual pay or annual salary was far different from what was given to her in reality. So she was in shock. So some of these things, there's no proper reward system, and I think it's part of the things that might likely be making people demotivated.
Okay, now I do understand that any workman is worthy of his or her wages, but it does appear that remuneration is the sole motivation for being effective. Is that what it should be? I mean, would you say that I should only be effective, I should only strive to carry out or to achieve a certain goal or target if I am adequately remunerated? Is that what it should be?
No, we have what we call 5 drivers of excellence. Now, these are 5 categories of people, how they are being propelled. The first people are those who they are driven by what we call required. And so they just do what's required of them to do. You give them a job description, they do it. You tell them, okay, I want you to do X, Y, Z. They don't go beyond it. That's their motivation. Now, the next set of people are those who are, they are driven by what we call, like you said, money. They're driven by, they want to make some extra money for themselves. And so that's what is interested in remuneration. So money is there. Once there's money, reward, that's what drives them. So the first R, I said, is the required. The second R, that they're motivated by reward. Now, you have some other people who also motivated by respect. So all they are striving for is to gain a respect in that field. That's one. Another set of people, they are motivated by recognition, or reputation. So I want to win an award in this, and I want to win an Oscar. That's what motivates them. But there are those who are motivated by record. And so every time they are motivated to do better than their past. Now, if you beat or hit your record, you will definitely get some extra money that will come to you. Definitely, you will get the respect, you will get the remunerations, and also remuneration should not be the major source. Reward shouldn't be your major source. You should be motivated by being able to outdo your past. And that's what comes in from self-motivation and not an external thing in terms of reward or remunerations.
Okay, we'll get to the issue of self-motivation and how that, impacts an effective workforce, as it were, in Nigeria. Now, a lot of times workers are laid off. They're laid off indiscriminately. They're laid off without warning, without an effective retirement program or even benefits or any of that. And now, but on the other hand, you find politicians or those that occupy certain political offices, they go home with fantastic take-home packages, and even after they're long gone, there is a machinery in motion to ensure that they are adequately, given something. Now, what do you think about that? We're looking at how to make our workforce more effective.
I was amazed when I heard on the news, I think sometime last week or 2 weeks, that some of our people in the government were already complaining where they wanted an increase in their take-home, I think about by 7 million or there, but I can't remember the exact figure. And people began to complain that people still have a minimum wage of it. We're still trying to struggle in some states to pay that 17,000 naira or 18,000 naira minimum wage. Now, for me, it's not so good, and it's a painful thing that we don't have a proper retirement program, like you say. So people are working today, and they seem to be doing so well, and all of a sudden they are sacked or they are laid off and nothing. And I think that that's part of what causes the increase in corruption or increase in crime, because everyone is now driven by, I don't know what happens to me tomorrow, and so let me steal all I can steal now. Let me get all the money I can get and all this. And part of those things are things that cause corruption. So I think it's something we need to look at. If we understand the dignity of a human being, of a person, and knowing that somebody puts in work to work for me deserves to have something better, I know that the workforce will be a better place. So everybody is coming in excited because you know that your tomorrow is going to be better. It's assured.
Okay, well, if you're just joining, we are talking about the workforce towards a more effective workforce management in Nigeria. I'm still talking with Kelechi Anyalechi, management consultant, peak performance coach, and a social expert. Now, my next question, it's some information, so I'm going to read it as I have it. It says in 2011, Nigeria was ranked 143rd out of 183 surveyed countries in terms of public perception of corruption by Transparency International.
Yeah.
Now, experts have said that lack of adequate reward for honest effort and good skill is one of the reasons for the increasing level of corruption activities in the society. Now, we did identify as a lack of proper remuneration as one of the reasons why the workforce is not as effective as it should be. Let's look at corruption. Now, how does corruption impact the effectiveness of any given workforce, not just with the employers, but with the workforce themselves as well? So
Yeah.
let's look at that.
Well, every time we talk about corruption, I'm amazed because when people are talking about trying to eradicate this thing, they look at it at, we're looking at it from the surface. We're not looking at it from underground. And I keep saying that if we're able to deal with it from the underground, it will help. I'll give you a very simple analogy. In the primary school, you have people who maybe their parents send them on errands to buy sweets or buy chocolates or something, and there's a change of 10 naira. And they skillfully keep it, or they don't let the parents know. If it used to be 20 naira, they say it's 30 naira, so they can keep 10 naira. You go to the secondary school, and now your textbook is supposed to be 800 or 1,000 naira. You add maybe 200 naira extra, because you want to do something, you want to have an extra cash. You go into the university, it goes into thousands. And so your school fees is supposed to be 20,000 naira. You say, Mom, my school fees is 30,000 naira. My accommodation is 50,000 naira. My project is 100,000 naira. Now, it goes on. So you see that the corruption has been moving from tens to hundreds to thousands. By the time you get into the office to work where there are millions, the same thing comes in. So for me, it's not just about the money that is given to you as remuneration or salary or anything. The thing that needs to be killed is as an individual corruptive tendencies that people get to have, whereby anywhere they go, they are trying to find out a way to siphon money out for themselves. So it's not the employers totally. I'm not going to blame the employers. I'm saying as individuals, it's important that we start dealing with ourselves as a person, because the same thing will happen if you get into the government. You will definitely do even worse than some people there at present may be doing. Okay,
a lot of people don't understand that. A lot of people feel it's a government thing. Our leaders and those that are in government are the ones that are corrupt. We are not the ones corrupt. In the meantime, you're inflating budgets in your office.
True.
You are paying some teachers to get your children pass in
your
certain
exams
examinations,
and all those kind of things.
and yet you claim you're not
I'll give you a
corrupt.
very funny story. Sorry. I heard a story of a banker. Sometimes when we are given our statement of our accounts, sometimes it runs and maybe you have 1 million naira. So you have 1 million naira, ... 00, maybe 23 kobo or 53 kobo. And a lot of time we don't pay attention to the kobos and the little naira. Everybody just wants to know the greater value. So this man, for several years in a certain bank, has been pulling out those kobos from people's accounts, and they never knew. By the time they found out, this guy had raided that company of over 100 million naira, and he was out. Now, so how do you blame the employer? So it's like you were saying, so people are always looking out for. You would scarcely think that somebody could be, quote unquote, that creative to do that kind of thing. Yeah. So now how do you blame an employer? And he's a banker, so he's definitely well paid to a large extent. So we're all doing these things. And that's why I'm not for the government. But I always keep telling people, stop throwing fingers at people when yourself too needs to be dealt with.
Okay, let's take a look at training. We're looking at some of the things that can make the workforce more effective and bring about greater productivity. Now, training is very, very important when it comes to, causing your workforce to achieve goals. Now, do you think that Nigeria, as it is now, can effectively compete with emerging global, with the emerging global economy with the current workforce that it has at the moment?
Sincerely, not yet. I don't want to say yes or no, but not yet. I'm praying and hoping that we get there.
In terms of ability?
Yeah, in terms of ability, because you can never know enough. We are yet to get to the level where we are able to appreciate. I'm a management consultant. A lot of times when you want to go to some organizations and you want to do some training for them, they look somehow, they're rather going to spend a lot of money or to have their end of year party. They would rather spend a lot of money, to give souvenirs. But when you tell them training, first of all, they say they're not interested. Or sometimes I hear some of them saying all sorts of things, or they want to run down the value of these things. But what can keep your organization? One of the best banks in Nigeria today, I don't want to mention their name, but we know that one of the things that have kept them to be, in fact, at present, they're the best, is that they don't play with trainings. They invest so much in their staff in terms of training. And so if you pick up somebody who is from that bank and speak to them, you can imagine their level of effectiveness. So we need to increase our perception, in terms of training, and begin to accept it, to understand that consultants are not coming to you to make money from you. They're coming to help your organization become better. Because definitely, organizations we've done trainings for, what we always try to do from time to time is to get reports from them, and do reappraisals to look at where were you before this training. And for every one of them, they have always gone better. And so that's something I think we need to do. And all over the world, that's what happens. I mean, I've said it before, people, they spend billions and trillions of dollars investing in trainings. And that's why you see what's going on in those developed countries.
Okay, well, I did ask you about Nigeria, the Nigerian workforce being able to compete, on the global scene. And, I think about some Nigerians, that are in certain positions abroad and, in other parts of the country, and they do exceptionally well. Are you saying those are isolated cases, maybe just a few individuals who have decided by themselves, excuse me, to distinguish themselves, and we see them do very, very well?
Every Nigerian, I've found out, is very intelligent. We have it as a special gift that God gave to us. We are very intelligent and we are very hardworking people. What happened is that these people, when they go abroad, they're exposed to a lot of training. And so those trainings are able to bring out those abilities for them to be able to compete and become the best. So if we can, what we just need is to have those trainings or those kind of facilities that open up these things for us. So we are very intelligent. For me, I can proudly say that Nigerians are about the most intelligent people in the world.
Okay, still talking about an effective workforce management in Nigeria, and we're looking at ways in which ways that could help us move towards a more effective workforce management in Nigeria. Now, let's look at this question. It says the non-implementation of government and labor agreements, a lot of times bringing about strike actions, industrial actions, and of course we know what that costs the economy when they occur. Now, do you see an immediate end to that particular challenge of strike actions and about, not heeding or not keeping to agreements that were made between labor and employers?
Well, in reality, Nigeria is not the only one affected by such kind of things. These are things that happen all over the world. And it's important for you to have these labor unions and organizations to protect the interest. We've heard stories in various countries where they were also even grounded longer than our work environments here. But we are hoping, and I'm seeing Nigeria becoming more transparent. So, over the years in the past, many things used to happen. Our Nigerians were not informed. But now we are now more informed. The government knows that Nigerians are now more knowledgeable. And, you see something comes up and everybody is driving it and driving it and driving it and driving it. Without anything, maybe a few years ago, the introduction of this 5,000 naira note that they wanted to do would have just gone smoothly. That's just a buy side. But because we're becoming more knowledgeable, they are careful. So that's the same thing I know that will happen in terms of this government and labor union issues and not being keeping up to that. Now that the government knows, and even the labor union, because we can only stay here and think that the whole fault is from the government. We can only say, but it may not just be totally from the government. The labor unions themselves might also have a camouflage of all these kind of things. So, but what we're saying, whoever is involved in the irregular stuff is definitely going to have a change very soon.
Okay, very, very quickly, I want us to very briefly look at the relationship between employer and employee. Now, it is said that, the better you know your employee, maybe their needs, their aspirations, the better you are able to sort of motivate them and, help them to understand the vision of the organization better and ultimately help them achieve that. Now, how do you see that in our setting? I'm talking about the relationship that it does exist between the employer and the employee. And to what extent really should that relationship be so as not to maybe cross boundaries or, certain things are being taken advantage of?
Sure. Well, in reality, they should have what I may call maybe a mentor and a mentee or protege kind of relationship, or a coach. The boss is supposed to be a coach to, your staff or your people working under you. When we mean coaching, you're trying to coach them to succeed. And so you have to understand their abilities. You have to understand their kind of persons. Everyone will not behave the same way. Our responses are different. That's why sometimes we do what we call the attitude test. They have different kinds of ways we behave. So it's very important that first of all, you know the way your staff is to be able to drive them. But if you start from the beginning to make whoever is involved understand the basis of this relationship and keep it there, you're not going to cross boundaries. So everybody has a clear understanding that no matter how close I'm trying to get to you, no matter how I'm trying to intrude their boundaries, I'm doing it because for the work and not for my personal interest. And everything gets to end, it doesn't go beyond the office.
Okay. All right, I'm going to ask my last question, which is twofold, actually. Now, first of all, in other countries, we have social security benefits. We've got some benefits for people that are unemployed. We've all manner of benefits, Now, what do you think about such packages, and do they promote the desired productivity or effectiveness in any workforce? Do you think these things boost people's effectiveness or otherwise?
For sure, it does. It's very important that you have that because no matter how you work for people, everybody wants to feel secure. It's something that just runs in your head, that this thing I'm doing, what's tomorrow? And that's why people don't always want to think about today. They want to be sure that their tomorrow is well taken care of. And so when they know it's well taken care of, they can focus. One of the challenges I know that is making at present the environment to not be the workforce environment to be so productive is that people think about tomorrow and they're already scared. They're already worried. And so it's a mind thing. And once your mind is not properly positioned, your work or your effectiveness will not be there. So if they are sure that, okay, everything, and I think it's something we need to start looking at seriously in the country, the social security thing, and see how to make, the employees and everybody become more stable and more comfortable.
Okay, and finally, in few words, how would you encourage, sort of encapsulating everything we've said so far in encouraging and enhancing the workforce that we have at the moment to make it become better and more result-oriented?
Okay, last week, there's something I've been playing in my head since last week, what I've been calling the challenge of the future. That's what I'm looking at, where you're going to be in the next 5 years in terms of your work, in terms of your business or whatever you're doing. And I'm trying to ask questions. I've been doing a lot of mails and sending a lot of stuff to people to let them understand. In the next 5 years, what are you going to be? The work that you're doing today, do you think it's still going to be effective at that time? The banks already are doing things like a cashless system, and that means that they're going to lay off some tellers. Some tellers will not be useful in a few years. They're trying to introduce the self-use pumps in Nigeria where I can go to buy fuel, and when I go, I don't need a fuel attendant to attend to me. Some people are doing business 5 years ago, several years ago. If I want to send an email, I have to run to a cyber cafe to do that. So I'm saying to everyone, every worker, ask yourself, this work I am doing, am I guaranteed in the next 5 years that if I do it the same way, I'll still be here? If you can answer that question, it will motivate you to do better.
Okay, a huge question that you would have to ask yourself and answer as well. Any quick word for the Nigerian government, ahead of October 1st, and as, in line with what we've been talking about, just a word to the government?
Well, I just want to congratulate I'd just like to congratulate the government. You've done so well in 1 year, but I know we can do better. And if you can encourage your workforce and bring up more policies and systems to make the people more stable, we'll have a better Nigeria. No matter how things have been this year, I know that we're going to have a better Nigeria and we're going to be more productive in everything that we do.
Okay, totally optimistic words there from my guest. And yes, there's no situation that can't be salvaged. We have been looking at working towards a more effective workforce management in Nigeria, and I did have the pleasure of talking with Kelechi Anyalechi, who is a management consultant, a peak performance coach, as well as a social expert. Thank you so much for coming on the show today. And yes, the questions have been asked. You ask yourself that question and ensure that regardless of anything else that happens, that you as an individual are effective, you are result-oriented and driven by the visions and the passions that you have on the inside. Thank you very much for being part of today's discussion. I did enjoy having you on the show tremendously. Please do keep a date with us tomorrow for another issue that we will be discussing on the show.
You're welcome to Let's Talk.
To sit down and talk. We need to sit down and iron out how Nigeria should go, how we're going to do our job.
If one can stand up and say no to corruption, we're going to do our job because you're telling the system, you are not just doing good for yourself or for the nation, you also do good for the future.
Boko Haram is an attack, it's a spiritual attack. It's a satanic attack on Nigeria. We must, if we come to recognize it, we will understand then how to look for the solution.
The Sovereign National Conference, how do we want to achieve that in our present system? We need to sit down and iron out how Nigeria should be governed